Welcome to Women Who Walk. I'm Louise Ross, writer and author of Women Who Walk the book, the inspiration for this podcast. And just as I did for the book, here I'll be interviewing and unpacking the journeys of impressive, intrepid women who've made multiple international moves for work, for adventure, for love, for freedom, reminding us that women can do extraordinary things. You can find a transcript with pictures to each episode and my books on my website, louiseross.com. Hello listeners, welcome to episode 17 of Women Who Walk. My guest today is Zoe Popham. Zoe grew up in a working class family in South London in the 1970s. In her teens, she was awarded a bursary to a private academic secondary school in Croydon known as Old Palace Girls' School. Zoe was the first person in her family to finish A-levels and to then go on to university where she studied law. When in casual conversation I asked Zoe why law, without missing a beat she said, "I wanted to be Prime Minister." In the mid-90s, during a study abroad year in the Netherlands, she decided instead that she'd like to work for the EU or in the House of Commons. But without the right connections to help open doors, and as a still quite young woman developing her confidence, she instead fast-tracked in the civil service, and at 21, Zoe was offered a high-level position as a customs officer, managing corporate solvencies. Despite guaranteed security, government work was not what she wanted. So she took a year off and travelled solo around Australia, later returning to the UK, where she picked up social services legal work. She then took an internship at BBC in White City to feed her creativity, writing TV scripts and producing short films. She also qualified to teach English as a second language, and in the late 90s, she put that training into practice, travelling to Chiang Mai in north of Thailand for adventure and to teach. As it happened, she knew someone in Bangkok who was working on a film, and he invited Zoe to work with him. The realisation that there would be international production work in Thailand led to a job opportunity with an Indian-Thai production company in Bangkok that made TV commercials for India. Over the next 18 years, Zoe worked her way up in the industry. But after a nearly 2-decade career in Asian TV and feature film production and post-production, she relocated to Portugal. As a single mum, she was in search of a balanced and healthy lifestyle and good, affordable schooling for her young son. These days, Zoe works with a Portuguese production company on TV commercials, feature films and documentaries, plus content development for international streaming platforms. During the recording of this interview, Zoe had some issues with her computer, so the sound is not great on her end. But keep in mind that you can always read the transcript on my website or the videogram closed captions on my YouTube channel. Welcome, Zoe. Thanks for being a guest on Women Who Walk today. Now, in the introduction, I alluded to the fact that you lived in Bangkok for almost 20 years. Can you tell us what are some of the memorable images from your neighbourhood there, those daily scenes that have stuck in your memory?
I lived in one area for quite a long time. I had an apartment in a very famous street, a lot of people coming in and out. And my main memories of that is always busy. You could get food at any time. I had a stray that I would feed, that would always come to find me. And also hairdressers downstairs. So the routine was like I would get up, go to the hairdressers, and it was very cheap, like €1 to have your hair done every day. So I'd literally go there asleep They would make me coffee, have my hair washed and straightened, and then walk out of their door straight onto a motorbike and then go to work. And there was a routine every day. So, I knew those people for years, getting all the gossip in the hairdressers.
That actually sounds a little like here in Portugal, because there are hairdressers on nearly every street corner, and it seems to be the place where people go to have a coffee, get their hair done, and exchange daily news. And now you're in Cascais in Portugal, so that's quite a different scene from Bangkok.
Very different. I do miss, the hustle and bustle. I think I always like having people around me. So here is a lot more quiet. I miss that chatting with people, random people, and just there's so much going on in Bangkok. It's very stimulating. It's a constant noise, and there's just crazy things all the time. I used to go to work on the bike, and then an elephant would go past and hit my face with its tail. These kind of like normal things that happen. But you just got used to the craziness. So here it seems a bit more calm. But in a way, that's why I'm here. The downside Bangkok, there are a lot of cracked pavements and holes. You could easily break your ankle, get hit by a random car. You always had to be very alert. And here I don't feel like I'm as alert, and that's nice.
We'll talk a little about the move here and the reasons behind it. But meanwhile, I want to go right back to the beginning. And you're from the UK. And I also mentioned this in the introduction that you were awarded a bursary to Old Palace Girls' School, and that you were the first member of your family to graduate secondary school and go to university. Was there support at home for your aspirations to study, or did you have to pave your own way?
My family had not studied in that way, so they couldn't really help me with the homework from age 11. They were kind of like, you're on your own, you don't really understand what's going on. So
Wow.
I had to really work it out on my own. I think it was a generational thing too. My mum had left school at 15, and my dad left school and got an apprenticeship as an engineer. So it was a typical working class family. You would just get out of school and try and make money quickly. I guess that they were worried about me, worried I'd just be in school and not making money, and then when would the money come? And they had certain idea of what they wanted from me, which is, I think, to work in a bank forever, a job for life with a pension.
And you had a very different aspiration for yourself, which, again, I mentioned this in the introduction. You said you wanted to be Prime Minister. I love this because even though you came from this working class background, as you say, you saw something that was vastly different for yourself than your parents saw for you. Where did that come from?
I always was interested in stories in the news about people that were treated unfairly, and I had this feeling I wanted to fight for the underdog. So I was a very sensitive child. Like, why did that happen to that person? That's not fair. And just because they didn't have money, or just because they didn't know the right person, and that's not how it should be. I thought, well, how could I change that? My school was very good at pushing us. So I went to an all-girls school. So it didn't cross my mind like I couldn't do it. I thought, if I'm Prime Minister, I'm, the most powerful person, so then I can change it. I thought it was that simple.
And yet I guess it wasn't that simple, because you went on to work in government, in civil service, but it wasn't for you. And you ended up travelling solo through Australia. And then is this when you discovered that, in fact, you'd rather be writing and working in film production?
I was into film before I went to Australia. When I was working for the civil service, I wasn't really stimulated, so I took evening classes. And I also joined a group nearby that they were making short films. So I started script writing after work as an evening class. I just wanted to do something creative.
What's interesting to me is that law and the creative and visual arts seem worlds apart, and yet somehow you make a career out of both. I mean, is there anything similar about these two tracks?
For me, they're similar. I think that they're both creative in their own ways. They both need a lot of focus. They both involve working with people and knowing people. I suppose I've always been attracted to any kind of job that is dealing with people and personalities and diplomacy. And they both have that. They're both quite highly pressured careers. So, yeah, I think that was a challenge for me. And I find I use the same skills in both. You have to be quite good at being clear. There's so many people relying on what you write, and it must be interpreted well in order for things to move on.
Interesting. In addition to these two career tracks, you also did some study in teaching English as a second language, and then that took you to Asia. Is that right?
Yeah, I did that as a sideline. At the time, I was dating a guy, and we were planning to go live in Spain. And I thought, well, look, what will I do? He could easily get a job there. So I thought, what can I realistically do? I thought I can teach. That's a skill I have and I can keep. It wasn't meant to be a job for life. It was more when I'm in trouble, I can turn to that.
And yet you end up in Thailand, perhaps for adventure and a change. And then your life opens up there. Can you tell us a little about that?
I had a friend that I'd met in Australia. We had planned to do this teaching certificate together. And then she got a job in Chiang Mai, in the north of Thailand, and then was not so happy there. And had sent me a message saying, it'd be great if you could come. I'd really love to see you. And so then I decided to go out there to see her. She ended up leaving, but in the meantime, I taught at some schools, and then I got into film.
And that was kind of serendipitous, the way you got into film there. It was through the brother of a friend, and you ended up working with him on a film. And then that opened the door for you to transition into your long-term career in film and film production.
I'd worked at the BBC as an intern before all of this, and I found it a very close shop. I worked with all men and all upper middle class, all very connected. And they didn't seem to really care about the job itself. It was like, oh, my uncle got me this job. And this was like my dream job, and I felt it was really unfair. Like, you just don't care, you just got handed it. It was so hard to get into the BBC or any kind of production. You had to really know somebody. And I didn't have any contacts at all. In my early 20s, I was extremely ambitious. The other interns were about 18, and the other people working in TV, like permanent people, they were all older. I felt like I will be 40 before I'm a producer or have any level of responsibility. This is how it is unless you know someone. I thought, well, I'm not doing that. I don't have time. I'm 21 and I need to do this fast. And so when I was in Thailand and this opportunity came, the guy in question, he's English as well. And I met him and he said to me, wow, you didn't know Bangkok is about to explode. Bangkok is the place for TV production. I had no idea. And he said, this is the best place you could be. They just filmed the beach, which was a big Hollywood film in Thailand. Right. Yeah. There are a lot of big productions coming there. And he said, now is the time. If you get in now, you will be in this wave. I had no understanding then about the fact that people travelled across the world to film, that commercials would be shot. Like someone wanted an elephant, they would fly to somewhere with an elephant with the background that's tropical. I hadn't really thought about that world. Then I realised, wow, there was all this work actually even coming from the BBC to Bangkok. There was work coming from everywhere. It opened my eyes to the possibilities. And because there weren't many young English girls desperate to be in TV, I could get hired more easily. And no one cared about my accent. They didn't care where I grew up. They had zero interest in anything except could I do the job well, and that was it. So that's what I did. I just worked so hard in order to be taken seriously and thrown such a lot of responsibility so fast. I could never have reached those levels if I'd have stayed in England.
So it was really the right move to Thailand and for you to climb the ladder in the industry. Did you ever run into any former colleagues or associates from the BBC in Asia?
I went back to the BBC for business meetings. I actually went back to White City where I'd worked. It was very weird. I just walked in the doors and I thought, this is so strange. Like 15 years later, I'm meeting the head of the department. I'm like so much more senior than any of the people.
Oh, I bet that was a nice feeling.
I was really excited about it, and I was also a bit scared because I was still comparing, and it was actually that trip that made me stop comparing. Because when I went in, I thought, oh, I've just got so much more experience. They asked me to do a talk while I was there because so many people had asked how it was to film abroad, and so many people came to that meeting because they all wanted to leave England. So there was me in the BBC giving a talk to all the staff about how great it was to live overseas and film overseas. And all these BBC staff were so excited. Can we get your number? Can you help us get work? Actually, one of the guys I met, he was a really good editor. He ended up moving to Bangkok and I worked with him. And he became a top editor for the company I work for and is still there. Then I realised, actually, I'm going to stop comparing because I don't really want this now. Like, if you gave me the option, I wouldn't take it.
Yeah. Did you find that your law degree came in handy at any point? I mean, when you went to some of these business meetings, were they drawing on your background in law or only production experience?
I don't think it wasn't useful. I think what's more important is the experience and the name. I built up a name in Asia. It's all who you know, definitely TV. But I would say it's more like, who do you rely on? Who do you trust? I had clients, they were coming over to film. I used to say, I work with this on this show. This is the irony. In the end, they didn't care about any of my qualifications or anything. It was because I had a resume of work, and that trumps everything.
From the perspective of an outsider, like from my perspective, TV and film production seems so glamorous. Do you think I'm being naive?
I don't see it as glamorous. There's definitely adrenaline to it. I think that's why it's addictive. It's a high adrenaline job because it's very exciting. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of money involved. It's good and bad. You work crazy hours and it's not a standard job at all. It's like a lifestyle. I see what's not on the screen. I see everything behind. So you'll see like a really good looking actor. Public sees the actor. But to me, the actor's just a very tiny part of it. You've got hundreds and hundreds of people behind that person. And the amount of work that goes on is so much work, like years of preparation. And so many hours and so many people involved and the politics. In a way, it sounds bad, but for me, the model or the actor or the glamorous looking person is just like, okay, just stand there and do the thing. But it's everyone else I'm mainly dealing with. Most people see the glamour, like the beauty and the beautiful things, and they think it's glamorous, but it's not the reality.
You mentioned politics, and this reminds me of the Me Too movement coming out of Hollywood, and the industry has changed a lot, hasn't it? Can you maybe talk us through some of the changes that you've encountered and what navigating those changes has been like for you?
It's sort of hard. I know from friends in the UK, they said it's very different. They actually keep encouraging me to go back there. Because especially for women, it's a great time. There are a lot of opportunities. They're looking for different voices. So this is almost like the very best time to get into the industry.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I would say it's extremely sexist industry in that
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard because as a woman, I feel kind of ashamed of things I've done or seen or supported. But at the same time, if you want to get in, you have to play the game. That's how it was. And as a woman, I've had everything happen, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And
Can you share a couple of things that you're comfortable talking about?
I guess it's like how much people respect you as a woman and how much are they not taking you seriously. Because I knew a lot of people, I feel like I didn't have to fight that hard. But I did have issues with famous directors. I was actually attacked once by a famous person who had bodyguards stationed outside my office.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah, and I was lucky because I actually got a feeling. And my colleague, I'd said to him, if I don't come out in 5 minutes, come in. And he just went in. So nothing actually happened, but it was about to happen. I couldn't say anything because this person was a very big client. And if I said anything, then it could destroy the company. And I got used to being put in strange situations. I had to be really careful. I became extremely streetwise. I would travel a lot abroad alone, film in China, Vietnam, Singapore. I was always going to different places alone, carrying money. It can be quite dangerous.
You mentioned that you became really streetwise. Do you think that the industry forced you to grow up in a particular way that has been an advantage or a disadvantage?
It's sort of sad, but I probably went off men a lot in this job.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not really trusting because when the clients come over and part of the work was their social life, I was the one dealing with their wives calling, and I have to be loyal to the client. Put me in very awkward positions a lot of the time because I would see everything that would happen. In order to keep my position, I had to be very discreet. I worked with Harvey Weinstein, not directly employed by him. I met him and he kissed me, but he's not interested in me. He's interested in top models.
Oh, wow.
It's because the models and the actresses want to change their lives. I just found it sad, but it was work, so it got very tiring. I started to really question relationships. I was never really interested in dating anyone in business. I think I was kind of protected in that I wasn't really seen to be like a woman. I guess I was seen as one of the boys.
I think a lot of women do that, adopt a male persona in order to cope with sexism on the job.
With me too, I think, wow, all the things I could have said. And that's why I feel kind of guilty now. But at that time, it's not like you can say something and then thing would happen or change. I believe like I could change it from the inside. So I would try to hire more women. I was very sensitive to the women I worked with. I would make sure that they had someone to check they got home. I would warn them about clients, have a system for the women that works, and I'll give them tips.
The industry sounds dangerous for some women, and that you were really having to look out for the women that worked for you. When you moved to Portugal and you began working for a Portuguese production company, I don't want to put you on the spot, but are you noticing similar kind of things here, or is the environment that you're working in a different?
Here's very different. I think it was just that time. It was Asia. There's the good and the bad, right? You could go to Asia and you could film in amazing places and you could get things in locations you want and you can buy anything, really. And that can be great for clients. And the downside of that is someone's going to pay for that. There's like a point you can't take it anymore and you just want a calm life. And that would be single women that quit. I think they're just sensible. And then there would be women that had children, they just literally disappeared. I had no idea that anyone I worked with had children until I had a child. To talk about children was kind of weakness. Because if you have a child, that means you're a liability.
Yeah.
Because you're in such a high pressured job. You cannot have time off if you're filming.
It helps me understand why you moved to Portugal. Initially, I think I understood from you that it was because you were looking for a better school for your son. But Portugal is so family-oriented, so this is definitely a place to have respect on the job as a single parent. Have you found that in fact is the case?
It's not great for me because I don't have family. Granddad, grandma, your child sick. Most of the expats I know, we're all in similar positions. We don't have families, so we kind of create our own. I think maybe if it was your family and you lived with them, you'd have a bubble within your house and you could rely on them more. When you don't have that family structure, I think it's quite hard. Actually, Thailand had better support. I had a nanny, like a help when my son was small. I really trust her. She was amazing. I would do half days, things like that, and we would share, and that was great. She was amazing.
You have your dad visiting at the moment. I'm assuming that for the last 2 years, though, you haven't had parents coming and visiting or family coming and visiting because we haven't been able to travel. And your son's been sick this last week. Has your dad been able to help a bit while he's been here?
My dad's great, yeah. I find that I'm a lot more relaxed just having one other person, that I can rely on.
So as we finish up, can you tell us if there are any interesting productions that you're working on here in Portugal?
For now, it's more bringing productions over. I'm focused on getting clients from overseas. So in a way, you're trying to sell the place.
Sell it as in having productions come here to film?
Yeah. So the main reason people go overseas to film is the locations available, or there's an incentive such that they get tax rebates, or it will be the crew. There'll be a reason that happens. And then also the directors and the creative team. And so they might be based here or they're near here. There'll be people that will be difficult for those others to find. And most clients are always wanting something a bit different. They want a new look. They're fresh and new and different. So it would be, say, a script that's based in a country that could pass for Portugal, or something very distinctive that they've seen that they want. Most of the time they don't know what it is they want, and I would send them a reference, or they would tell me the project, what they're doing, and then I would think, oh, that would be good here. How about this? How about that? And kind of give them ideas. Also give them a team. I know the skills of all the team, and I know what's available, and I also know the client, so they would trust me to bring them here. So there's a lot of personal information involved.
I see. Well, thanks so much for your time, Zoe. And if listeners would like to connect with you, where can they find you online?
You could email me at zoe@spymanor.com or via my LinkedIn page.
Great. Well, I'll add those to the transcript of this episode. And again, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening today. And so you don't miss future episodes with more impressive, intrepid women, do subscribe on your favourite podcast provider or on my YouTube channel, Women Who Walk Podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review Women Who Walk on either Apple or Podchaser. I've linked to them both in the transcript of this episode on my website, louiseross.com.